Why did you pull that stunt in front of me, in front of my father?
Well, because you didn't respect me.
Fire on Brian with the questions, right? But didn't she have 2 kids with 2 baby daddies?
So if I explode on him, I'm gonna be wrong, right?
Yeah.
Niles he's a little bit kind of like a dog, like a chihuahua. They want to like have this big personality and they think they're like a Rottweiler. Okay, so that's Niles.
I told her I forgot my passport to turn back to the house, but it's actually shooters. You can just bring him on the plane.
Adnan, you stay talk to me.
Well, I can't.
I can't.
Why not?
Look what you dressed. What?
But if you don't want to be a strict Muslim, you don't have to be a strict Muslim.
Oh, what is that you're saying from your mouth? No one will be friends with me. Why? Because I am honest always.
No.
I don't know about you guys, but the entirety of the tell-all part 2 felt like rage bait. Folks are getting super bold with their audacity, and at this point, I am team nobody. I am team divorce. I am team everybody can get it. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days, the tell-all part 2. Y'all, things are heating up. At first, I was like, why do we need 4 parts? But now I see, because there is a lot of tension that's happening. So much to unpack. Let's jump straight into it. Before we do, as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're gonna dive straight in with Niles&Matilda because it picks up in that moment where Adnan tries to hijack Niles' segment and refers to Niles as a sugar daddy and the fact that Matilda is just there for that. It was really nasty and unnecessary because Matilda hasn't said anything about them. And Niles is obviously, you know, like peeved. And Adnan is like, oh, you don't like when I give my opinion? And he's like a child trying to prove a point. But they try to pivot. Matilda tells Niles, to calm down. She is the Niles whisperer. Sean moves on to the whole masking of it all. And for the average viewer, definitely for myself, when he first described masking, I was like, Niles, this sounds like you're lying. But I read up on it. So Niles begins to explain like why he masks and why this is something that happens, and Brian decides to insert himself. He's like, of course he's lying because he knows that he's gonna get someone yelling at him like a lion. You mean his wife that's holding him accountable? Mind your business. I'm just like, stop trying to make the woman the problem. Also, I love that Niles inserted himself and he was like, actually, I was the one that brought up marriage. I just didn't know that in her culture, the minute you bring up marriage, you get the ball rolling. I brought it up thinking that this is something that we could do in the near future. Then they pivot to the whole Mr. Ark of it all. Mr. Ark's involvement, the fact that Mr. Ark could have possibly pressured Niles to be on the fast track. They replay the scenes, of course, and then they bring Mr. Ark on screen and he looks amazing and looks like he's not here to play games with Sean either. And when Mr. Ark comes on the screen, Niles is like, hey, Dad, which leads Sean to ask, how did your family feel about, you having him represent the fam? And I felt bad for Niles because his family did not apologize for the fact that they missed out on the wedding. Instead, they're like, how could you do this to us? And it's crazy because at this point, him and Matilda have been married for about a year at this point, or like 10 months. That was the last time they saw each other. And I understand that it's hard to feel like you weren't included, but Niles did ask them. Even before the trip, they made it clear that they didn't approve of this. And then even when he called for their blessing, that would have been an opportunity to be like, we got you no matter what. And they weren't with it. So at this point, it just feels wrong of them to victimize themselves when, like, he did want you to be a part of his day. So I am glad that he had Matilda's family and Mr. Ark for support. Then messy Sean is like, yeah, but he did promise you that he was going to get Matilda at a quicker timeline and he doesn't have money to bring her. How do you feel about that? And Mr. Ark is like, I'm not happy about that. The job isn't done until he brings her. So like, I'm going to keep my eye out for that. That's what I want to see. But I appreciate though that Niles and Matilda are regular people. Niles works a regular job. He's not an influencer. He's like, I'm paying for my bills. I'm supporting Matilda from afar. And I'm doing this as quickly as I can, but it's going to take some time to do that. And even with all of that, he did pay his debts to Mr. Ark. So he doesn't owe him anything for the wedding. All he owes him is the promise of bringing Matilda to America. And there was a moment where they panned to Adnan laughing, and it made me feel really gross because it just adds to the layers of him and Tigerlily thinking that they're better than everyone because they have money. And just seeing their smug faces while Niles is talking about the struggles that he's facing to bring his wife pisses me off because they are in fact a much healthier couple than Tigerlily and Adnan could ever be. So then you guys, out of nowhere, Adnan turns to Niles and he's like, so do you support my relationship? Do you wish well for me and my wife and my family? No one is talking about y'all. This is not your segment. Niles is like, I'm not going to answer that. And you know what? He shouldn't have to. I don't have to wish you well. I don't care for you. This is just another example of Adnan trying to hijack Niles' segment, Niles' moment, and just the tell-all in general. He's a child having a tantrum. He insists that he doesn't care, that he's better than everyone, but in fact, he does care for their approval because he is super insecure. So he keeps asking Niles over and over again, you don't wish well for my family? And Niles is trying to ignore him. Adnan is like, I'm talking to you. Answer me. Who the hell do you think you are? Y'all, when I tell you that I was red watching that scene because it was just a clear example of bullying. He was antagonizing Niles and Niles was doing his breathing exercises, but he looked like he was the Hulk for a moment. He was really trying not to explode in his seat. Matilda is like, calm down. And Adnan is laughing, antagonizing, asking over and over again. It was nasty. And honestly, I think that was an unsafe environment for Niles. And shame on production for not stepping in. It is so gross and it is eating Adnan. The fact that these people aren't worshiping his relationship, that they're not like, oh my God, you guys are the best. He is sick that they're all calling him out for his controlling behavior. So his tactic now is to make it hell for everyone else. If you ask me, I think that he kind of derailed the entire tell-all. And this is just the beginning. So Adnan won't shut up. He keeps antagonizing Niles. Niles gets up for a moment and he's like, you know what? Since they're not going to remove this guy, I got to remove myself. And he goes out and takes a breather. And so this mother effer is on this stage being like, basically what did I say? I'm being nice. I'm trying to be nice. And Vanya's like, no, you're not. You know what you did. And Matilda's like, Adnan, you need to mind how you talk to my husband. That was unnecessary. And so then Brian tries to kiss Adnan's ass, being like, if you ask here, everyone loves your relationship. Everyone wishes the best for you. And the unspoken part was, your relationship isn't the problem. The problem is you. And Adnan is just being so smug, so disrespectful. He starts throwing fake compliments to the group, being like, I want to love all of you. I don't like you right now. Then starts talking about Mr. Ark's outfit, being like, yeah, I love it. I want to wear it when I go to Mecca. And it's like, shut up. And Mr. Ark is like, yeah. Calm down. Happy to see you too. Calm down. Keep it cute. And I want to point out that the whole time Tigerlily is quiet and she is disassociating. And we will never know if she's embarrassed because they're the plastics and they want to always seem perfect. And even though she's quiet, Tigerlily is just as scummy as her man. Birds of a feather. I'm coming for her shortly. But in this moment, she is quiet. She is checking out because her boy toy won't shut up. Meanwhile, backstage, Niles is just bursting in the seams because he's embarrassed that Adnan made him blow up in front of his dad. Back on set, they present some fan question to Mr. Ark, basically insinuating that he pressured Niles into marriage. Mr. Ark is like, I didn't pressure him. I just geared him towards our traditions. There's a certain way that you do things, and he came here trying to do it half-assed. Vanya agrees with the fan comment. She believes that he was pressured. I'm just like, Niles could have said no and went back home. I personally think that Niles knew all along everything that was set in place. I feel like Matilda couldn't stop talking about it. And I think that he personally checked out because he thought that he was going to be able to see himself out of it. I don't think anyone blinded him into it. And I also feel like he could have gone home. It could have been and out to just be done with the relationship. But I really do think that these two love each other. Niles comes back on set and he apologizes to Mr. Ark. But Mr. Ark is really upset. He's like, listen, no matter what, it is rude for you to walk out. So you don't need to just apologize to me. You need to apologize to everyone. And Niles apologizes to everyone except Adnan. But I felt like this was humiliating. I understand that Mr. Ark is old school, but when I have a problem with someone that's close to me in my life and I want to correct them, I never correct them in front of other people. I'm not going to embarrass you. I'm supposed to have your back. And the whole thing made me uncomfortable because he was apologizing like he was a child, and like to feel like you're a child in front of a man that already thinks that you're less of a man would eat my ego like no other. Because of course Adnan is laughing the whole time. And so that is getting me fired up. It's getting Niles fired up. And he's like, so if I go hit him, I'm the bad guy, huh? And everyone's like, yeah. But it's like, why is no one making Adnan apologize to Niles? He set that whole situation up because he couldn't take criticism. So because he couldn't take criticism at a tell-all, he decides to make it everyone's problem and bully Niles. And I understand that Niles maybe was over the top in the last episode, but he wasn't wrong. Nothing he said was wrong. I don't know. I just had a huge problem with how that whole after scene went down. But then Adnan continues to make this ish about him, and he's like, well, you know, I only went after you because you hurt my feelings. And Niles is like, this isn't the time to talk about it, like this isn't about you. And everyone's like, well, yeah, it is the time, like you're in the tell-all. This segment is about Niles and Matilda, not about Adnan wanting his ass kissed. I don't care what anyone says. So this segment is done, you guys. But then backstage, you can hear Adnan and Tigerlily because they're still mic'd up. And Tigerlily is talking so much crap about Matilda. It is nasty work. Matilda didn't come for them. Tigerlily is like, yeah, they're just mad because Matilda wants a sugar daddy. So now it's better get a new job because that's not going to do it for her. Did Matilda tell you that? Because it sounds like she's saying the opposite. You guys, when I heard Tigerlily run her mouth, I was like, you know what, Tigerlily? I hope your little boy toy takes you for everything you're worth. Initially, I had some sympathy because you had children, but now, let him take you for everything you're worth. And I'm not even gonna bat an eye. You didn't have that energy on set, but you want to talk all this crap when Matilda can't defend herself? Crusty. But to end Niles and Matilda segment, we see him call Matilda backstage, basically to check in, and also because she's his source of calm. So he's like trying to get himself centered, even though he wants to beat Adnan's behind. But these two are fine. Matilda's just stressed because she's not there to physically defend that man, but she loves him. Another backstage moment is that Vanya takes Lauren's stupid girlfriend test. That was unnecessary. Then we see that Bozo comes back on set. He comes back to the camera and everyone's trolling him like, oh, how was your meeting? I'm guessing he's back because they're eventually going to make him, give his 2 cents when Joshko comes to the scene. But I'm like, okay, Bozo's back. Next segment is Joe&Magda. Magda has had a resting bee face the entirety of this tell-all. When it comes to talking about their relationship, she's like, yeah, we're the best we've ever been. I'm so lucky. And then she gives one smile, but for the most part, she's like, and if you guys recall, when we first left off with them, the plan was she was going to come to America. He wanted her to meet all his loved ones. And then at the end of the trip, he was going to propose and they were going to live happily ever after. That was the plan. So where are we in that? She did come to America. They had a lot of fun. She met his friends, his family. They didn't necessarily get into if she met the ex of his that is in his friend group. But the big question is, okay, so are you guys engaged now? And she's like, no, I'm back in Poland. Joe's lame reason is that he didn't want her to expect it, but it doesn't help that Magda apparently has been asking him every week, when are you going to propose? He wants it to be a big surprise. My thing is, Joe is not ready to get married, full stop. Her pressuring him isn't new. She's been doing that from day one. I just think that it's lame of him to just not be direct with her. Why tell her that she can expect an engagement at the end of a trip and then not have it go through? I understand it's annoying to feel nagged, to feel like you're being pressured, but the only way you're not going to be pressured is if you are crystal clear. So stop saying things to make her feel better when you know that you're not going to see it through, especially when Magda is like so intense about promises. In Magda's defense, these two keep talking about being together forever. Visas take time. As we've seen, they can take like 2 years to bring someone here. So she's like, I'm in Poland. I don't have a job because we set this expectation that we were going to be together. We need to get this rolling. And I'm just like, Magda, get a job. Never put your livelihood in the hands of a man. That's one. Two, you don't even have a ring yet. Like, you're giving up too much. So Brian is like, well, it just depends. Like, how long is she willing to wait for you? And he keeps pressuring Joe, like, you know, you're not giving her a date. And Joe is like, Brian, I understand that you've proposed like 7 times, but that's not the trajectory that I want. And I was dying. So honestly, there's a lot to unpack here. They do address Magda's crazy ass putting an engagement ring on her ring finger. She says that it was just one of her rings that she already owned, that she put it there so that no one would talk to her, that everyone would know that she's taken. And like, I get why people do that. I just think it's crazy to do that when you hadn't even met Joe face to face. Again, this girl is intense and Joe knows that. There aren't any surprises. So I don't feel bad for him. Like, if you don't want to be with an intense girl, then get out of it. But to wrap up their segment, you guys, they play back the scene. Remember when he was late to the airport and then he had to make everybody turn back because he forgot his passport? Well, it turns out it wasn't a passport. He forgot a bunch of shooters. Yes, alcohol. He wanted to get that from his fridge because they are overpriced at the airport. When I tell you that I would have screamed if I were production, because time is money. That's one. Two, Magda is listening to this horrified because if I were her, I'd be like, you risked the once in a lifetime opportunity to see me. You risked possibly missing your flight to see me because of some little bottles of alcohol. Do I mean that little to you? That is wild. And so he's laughing this off because he thinks that it's a valid reason. And everyone's like, are you okay? Magda looks pissed and constipated because she's like, not only did you not propose, but you picked shooters over possibly me. And I feel like we're definitely going to see the ex-girlfriend sometime in one of these parts for sure. The next thing I want to talk about, you guys, is this weird interaction that I saw between Vanya and Adnan. So Vanya's backstage trying to talk to Tigerlily. It's coming off a little fake. They're both being super fake. Vanya's like, yeah, I want to hear about, your life in Jordan. And like, you said that you were in a very controlling marriage before and then you went to Adnan. So like, I want to hear more about that. If I were Tigerlily in this moment, I would have been like, why are you up in my business, But again, I don't like Tigerlily, so I loved that Vanya was like holding a mirror to her face, like, yeah, everything sounds fun in the beginning, and then a year later, you're going to talk about Adnan the same way that you talk about your ex-husband. But before Tigerlily could really answer, Adnan comes by, and then Vanya does this weird thing where she's like, shh, Adnan is coming. But like purposely so that Adnan could hear it. And of course Adnan is like, what are you guys talking about? And Tigerlily's just smiling. It was really strange. And then Adnan is like, let me find you an Arabic man. I have like 12 brothers. And Vanya's like, well, that's not going to work because I don't like to cover up like Tigerlily. And he's like, oh, because you like attention? You like when people look at you? And she's like, I like to dress like this for myself. Thank you very much. And then Tigerlily tries to walk away. And then Adnan is about to follow. And Vanya's like, no, stay and talk to me. And Adnan is like, well, no, I can't stay and be here by myself with you. And Vanya's like, why not? Like, we're just talking. And Tigerlily's like, well, no, he can't. Like, it's the thing. Just like, I can't be. And Vanya's like, is it because of my dress? Like, don't look at me then. And he's like, no, it's not because of your dress. It's just like a rule between us. And Vanya kept pushing it. And then at one point, Adnan is like, what is there to talk about? And she was like, oh, never mind. The whole situation was just so embarrassing because I don't know if Vanya was like trying to make a point. I don't know if production was in her ear, like try to isolate them. It just felt really forced and really uncomfortable. And I'm leaning on the producer point because then they go back on set and Sean is like, yeah, I heard there was like a weird interaction between you and Adnan. And Vanya is like, oh, well, he doesn't care for my thoughts because I'm a woman, so that's why he didn't want to talk to me. And it's like, that's not, I don't think, I mean, yes, he doesn't care about women, but I don't think that's what was happening in that particular moment. Which then makes Tigerlily intervene and she's like, no, like it is just a respect thing in our relationship. But anyway, next up is Veah and Sunny. And we hear that things were rocky when they got back. When Veah got back, the whole thing with Sunny's dad made it really uncomfortable and they broke up for like a month. And in that time that they were broken up, they only talked like twice, like they really kept their distance. And they got back together like after a month. But in that time, Veah was single, obviously, and she decided to go on a date with somebody. Sunny knew that she went on a date, but he didn't know who she went on a date with. And they made it into like this whole suspenseful thing, like, yeah, that was the real reason why Sunny was upset. So I'm thinking, did she go on a date with Rory? No. Turns out she went on a date with her dog walker, or the guy that took care of her dogs when she went to South Africa. So everyone at first is like, oh my God. And I'm like, this is not a big deal. Veah's allowed to date as a single woman. Like, you guys broke up. But it is opening a wound of the fact that these two have major trust issues in their relationship, major communication issues in their relationship. And for Sunny, who's super jealous and already has a problem with her being friends with Rory, he's like, there's another guy that was already in your life that you told me not to worry about, and then you're going on a date with him? So, like, I get how the optics of it are just not great. And so everyone's trying to psychoanalyze what happened, and I'm like, there's nothing to psychoanalyze. She was a single girl doing single girly things. However, Veah is claiming that her and this guy didn't even kiss. It was just one date. She's like, no, I don't kiss on the first date. Do you guys believe that? I think that she definitely like pecked that guy, maybe a makeout, and just doesn't want to tell Sunny because she knows that he's going to erupt. Especially because they were already friends before, so I feel like when you're friends, there's like a added level of like closeness, but that's just me. I'm going to take her at face value. She's claiming that nothing of the sort happened. Okay. Adnan is on the side fuming, yelling at Sunny, being like, you need to be more controlling, you need to get control of this relationship, you need to be more jealous, she shouldn't be out here with guys. And I appreciate that Sunny was like, if I become those things, I'm gonna be a destroyer in my relationship and I wanna build us up. So then it makes everyone get into this whole conversation about whether or not, people can be friends with the opposite sex. I know that it's a mixed bag for everyone. I think that you can absolutely be friends with people from the opposite sex. I think that when you're in relationships and marriages, there has to be communication with your partner. You have to set boundaries. I think that all of that is possible. And I can also say that Veah is super messy and she continues to be messy, and I just don't know when she will learn her lesson. But what I'm not about to do is slut shame her because she was being single. Like, that's ridiculous. A life update between these two. Sunny's moving back to Bangladesh and he's gonna remain there until it's time for him to come back to America. They are very deep into the paperwork for the K1 visa. It sounds like they're further ahead than Matilda and Niles. They have very little left to pay. So at this point, it seems like we're wrapping up their segment, and then Adnan blurts out, so Sunny, is it true that you were having premarital sex with Veah? And Sunny's like, yeah, I did the wrong thing. And as he's speaking, Vea's like, yeah, he's Muslim, but you don't have to be a strict Muslim. To which Adnan erupts and he's like, what are you saying? You're the atheist. Like, what do you know, basically? And everyone's like, don't yell at her. Sunny is like, I asked for forgiveness, like, religion is personal. And Adnan is like, that's not true. Like, when you're a Muslim, it's the same for everyone. And so it's obvious that Adnan and Tigerlily think that Veah is atheist. And she's like, no, we are in the same situation that you and Tigerlily are in. Tigerlily is Christian. She believes in Jesus. I believe in Jesus. And they're like, oh, we thought you were atheist. To which Veah uses Jesus' name in vain in the way that she says it. Like, she curses as she says, like, you're not going to tell me what I believe in. And it was just like, babe, it's not making your point come across well, but I understand, like, this person is antagonizing you. Like, I get it, but I wish you would have taken a beat to answer that in a more respectful way, because I know that people were pissed hearing that. I want to give her grace because I feel like she was like a pressure cooker and Adnan kept just going after her. So then Tigerlily asks Sunny if he wants Veah to convert. And this idiot, because that's what he is, he doesn't get it. He is still like, well, I don't want her to convert now because telling her that I want her to convert now would push her away. But I hope that, as she learns about it and spends more time with me, that she's going to come to her senses and convert. That's not how this works. And Vea's like, I've told you that I am not going to convert. And he's like, well, it's because you don't know about it yet. And like, obviously, when you learn about it, you're going to love it and you're going to convert. And she's like, are you deaf? And I felt bad for her because you can tell that she thought that they were past this. And him adamantly being like, well, yeah, in the future, like, for sure she's going to convert, felt like a slap in the face. Vanya then inserts herself and she's like, Vea's telling you that she's a Christian. Why is your religion superior to hers? And he's like, oh, well, because I'm the man. To which Adnan starts laughing because he's like, oh, you're the man now? And I'm laughing because I'm like, Sunny, you're an idiot. And also, wouldn't it just be easier to be with someone that already believes in what you believe in? If it's a deal breaker for you, why put yourself through this? Y'all are not gonna get married. And if you do, it's gonna be hellish. Because Sunny, at his core, is a people pleaser and he needs his father's acceptance. He needs for his peers to respect him. He needs his peers to think that he is good. And he is acting up on national television. And I just think that it's crazy to marry someone because you think that you have the ability to change them. Like, don't marry people off of potential. Accept people as they are, as they're presenting themselves to you. It just feels so icky, like, to be like, yeah, like, I'm gonna brainwash her into converting. And even Tigerlily is like, well, it's against Islam to like force someone to convert. Like, it needs to be in her heart. But at the core of it, the reason he really needs her to convert is because his dad doesn't talk to him. They only talk about business because, if you guys recall, he works at his dad's store. But they don't talk other than that. And everyone's like, yeah, like, it sucks the way that he turned his back on you. But Sunny is like, in our religion, like, my dad would never really turn his back on me. He may be upset for a year, but like, he'll forgive me. I just have to do X, Y, and Z. You could see that he feels a lot of grief about it. Veah feels really guilty. Joe in particular is like, Veah, you obviously can see that this hurts him. Like, maybe don't put up a fight when it's time to cover up for his family. And she recognizes that, like, she could have done things differently from the jump. So I'm happy that she took accountability about that. But to wrap up their segment, Adnan is like, I feel bad for your father. You're leading a bad life with cheating and sex and just like going off on this man. And I just felt so bad for Sunny because he was trying so hard not to come off as angry as Adnan. But I'm sure that everything that Adnan is saying, he's already heard. So I felt really bad for him. Next up is Brian and Ingrid, y'all. Oh my God. There's so many things that I want to say about Brian that would be problematic, and I have to physically restrain myself. So Brian and Ingrid have not talked or seen each other, I guess, since the Brazil trip. But the update that we got from them in episode 1 is that they've both moved on, right? They asked Brian how he feels because, he talked a lot on camera about how he felt like she didn't try. And he's like, well, obviously she tried because I was there for her. But I just think, that she wasn't really ready for the wheelchair stuff. And then when he expands on what he means by that, y'all, so frustrating. He was like, yeah, she just would be like alarmed when like we would see like something that I would have to jump over or like a crack in the street. I just felt like she was talking to me like I was one of her kids. And I'm like, Brian, no one can win with you because you want her to be proactive about the fact that she doesn't live in an accessible town. So that is her way of protecting you. But also, while he has had an experience of over 20 years being in a chair, this is brand new territory for Ingrid. And I feel like from the start, he didn't give her like a window to like be comfortable. He wanted things to be from 0 to 100, and honestly, from the start, it was so unfair. They play back the horrible scene where he's like, I have a gift for you, and it was lingerie, and she uncomfortably wore it, and he gave her that weird massage, and then it cuts to her crying in the car, going away, and him being like, yeah, I tried to give her a gift of tonguing her down and she ran away. She ran away because you were acting like a thirst monster. Also want to highlight that at this point, you've proven yourself to be beyond a stranger because you lied about your age, you lied about your criminal background. At this point, I don't even think she knew that you were like engaged and married like 7 times total. And on top of that, you were trying to be intimate without protection. And I love that they played back the scene where she's describing the incident and she was mimicking how he was acting like a maniac, like he needed to like get his mouth on her. And just seeing him get red like a tomato because yeah, that is how you were acting, how embarrassing. They, of course, jump into the debate where everyone's like, is oral too personal? Like, would you have backed away like that? And it pissed me off, you guys, that immediately Tigerlily and Adnan began to slut shame Ingrid, being like, well, what did you think was gonna happen? Like, look at you. You're like showing your bits. Like, why play with him like that if you're not gonna be intimate? Of course it doesn't matter because Trujillo over here doesn't care if anyone says no. If you're gonna show it off, of course you're expecting to do this. It's expected, but doesn't make it any less gross. And I love that Ingrid was like, I could say no and show that. And also, I'm Brazilian. People are in bikinis all the time. Like, that's part of my culture, even if it's not yours. And so this whole time, Brian is not taking accountability. He's saying that, like, he expected them to be intimate because she asked him to go to the pharmacy to get protection. Yes, protection. And you're trying to go in there without it. Like, she has every right to be like, no, I don't want to do this. Vanya's like, that doesn't give you the right to treat her like that. And he was like, well, she's going to deny it. But when the cameras were gone, she stopped me and she said, I have a boyfriend. So what Ingrid said was that she told him that she met someone else. She wasn't with anybody. She was still a single girl, which is why she was going through the motions with Brian, because they already had like 2 years of building something, but she was single, they weren't exclusive, so she had met someone else. Obviously not far along, obviously not a relationship, obviously not a boyfriend, and she was obviously looking to be intimate with Brian under the right setup. Brian has proved himself at this point to be a serial liar and a gaslighter. I wouldn't trust him with my sexual health. So I totally understand why she was like, I need a condom to continue moving forward. And he kept pressing the matter like a ravaged dog. Ingrid also adds that she works in healthcare and she knows how quickly STDs can spread orally, to which they pan to Lauren and he's like, Dono. Only proving her point. They bring out Brian's daughter on camera and it just reminds us, like, she's 33, 32. Her and Ingrid are only a year apart. That would be so embarrassing for me as a daughter. Brian is like It's fine. Then they play back the scenes of all of the revelations that Ingrid kept facing. Like, it was like a hit. Ingrid literally is like, oh. It was one after the other, lie after lie of him being like, oh, you didn't know? Yeah. And then on set, he's like, well, I'm an open book. You talk to me for 2 minutes and I tell you everything. Sir, she didn't know this important information about your life because you withheld it. His daughter is like, yeah, that's why I don't see how she could be in love with him and not know those things. Babe, you were 33 years old. You know how it goes. We fall in love with people for the way that they present themselves. Ingrid fell in love with the Brian that Brian constructed for the apps. It's simple. And then they came face to face and she realized that this man was a farce. They also played the scene where he's putting on the catheter and it was just so crude and it was his way of like testing Ingrid, to which the daughter is like, yeah, that was really cringe to see. Again, like, I get that Brian wanted Ingrid to be acclimated, but I just think that the whole way that he went about it was super inconsiderate and borderline, no, not borderline, it was gross. And so at this point, all of the heat is going on Brian, rightfully so, because he is disgusting. And he proves that he is just the scummiest of men, because he's like, all the heat is coming on Brian for being 7 times engaged. But what about Ingrid? She has 2 kids from 2 separate baby daddies. F you for trying to shame her, but also proving the point that that wasn't a secret. She let you know that ahead of time. You didn't have to figure it out for your own. You didn't have to ask questions in the right way. You didn't have to solve any puzzles to know that. She led with that. That is the difference between you and Ingrid. And when they ask Ingrid, do you have anything to say about what he just said? With class, she's like, I'm not here to exchange bullets with this man. She's like, I'm not gonna go as low as him. He's proving my point. I've moved past this. Their segment ends with the daughter being like, I hope that he can slow down, like find someone that is really there for him. And he basically is laughing in the daughter's face like, yeah, I'm not listening to that advice. And as we know, he already has a new victim, so how embarrassing for everyone involved. So the final clip is a compilation of things. It's leading up to the big blow up between Adnan and Niles. So on one side, Niles and Vanya are outside. They're having a little lunch. Vanya's asking Niles like what triggered him with the whole Adnan interaction. And he's like, it was the sugar daddy comment. Because it's one thing for you to come at me, but you're coming at my family, my loved ones. Like, that's not okay. So he's brewing on that side. Adnan and Tigerlily are trying to go eat. And then I guess it's like Joe and Lauren. And they're like not even saying anything to him. And he's like, you know what, baby, go eat over there because I don't want to have to hear people calling me controlling. And it's like, no one's talking about you. Like, no one cares. He ends up sitting down to talk with Lauren, and Lauren really wants Adnan to like him, okay? He's like, no, we're good here. We're good. And Adnan is like, everyone's trying to change me. Everyone's telling me that I'm being controlling. But they find common ground because Lauren is like, yeah, Niles doesn't like me either. Adnan is like, yeah, like, I'm done putting makeup on my words. And I'm just like, did I miss the part where you were putting makeup? Because you've been a terror since you got here. So he's getting amped up on this corner. Anya and Niles are on one end, and Niles is getting, like amped up because he's like, yeah, like, I'm going to step up to him and tell him that that's not okay. As Vanya and Niles are talking, Adnan turns the corner and looks at them and is like, yeah, it's not nice to meet you. And Vanya's like, okay, like who asked? So you're already coming to this space with stank attitude. So Niles gets in his face and he's like, why did you do that in front of my father? Like, that's disrespectful. And Adnan is laughing in his face like, you didn't respect me. So if you didn't respect me, like, that's why I'm going to keep doing that. And Niles is lifting his glasses and he's like, you know what we do to people in the South that act like this? And Adnan is laughing because Adnan does not think of Niles as an equal. He doesn't think of him as a man. There's a lot at play. I think that he's looking down on him for autism. Someone in the comments mentioned this, and I think There's a little racism in it as well. There's classism in here. There's a lot at play. Also, Adnan knows that Niles is not going to be able to hit him with security on television. Like, he knows he's protected, so he is cool, calm, and collected. Like, he is just adding salt to Niles' wound in being like that. So at this point, Niles is lifting his glasses. He is in his face, and that is where it ends. Honestly, I don't condone violence. But Adnan looks like someone that has never been punched in the face because he's just too loose in the mouth. You know what I mean? But that's where this tell-all ends, you guys. We'll see where they pick up in the next episode. It was so heated. I cannot wait to read your thoughts in the comments, you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.